hallo, willkommen. Ich bin Mika und heute sind wir in Oslo, Norwegen, zusammen mit meinem Gast Roger Atkins.
Vielen Dank, Mika. Ja, hier spricht Herr Atkins. Ich bin in Oslo, zusammen hier in Oslo. Und natürlich wird gesprochen Deutsch.
Ein bisschen. That's a good start.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
That was it.
Look, the internet and everything, it's international, isn't it? So our friends watching could be German.
Sure.
Okay, should we start again? Bonjour, mon ami, comment allez-vous? Je m'appelle Roger.
Terrific. C'est bon.
Yeah, look, we can't go through every language, can we, Mika?
We can't.
And certainly if you ask me to speak Finnish or Swedish, it's not going to happen, my friend.
No, but okay, we are in this fantastic, fabulous NIO House in Oslo, stone's throw from the parliament here.
Yeah.
So actually, talking about languages, you're in Norway. You've been hosting or co-hosting this Nordic EV summit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely co-hosting. I had a fabulous host that I work with, co-host that I work with. We've had an amazing event. It was a great exhibition with lots happening in there, and then the stage with the globe stage with all of our speakers. We had a few people come in on digital connections, so we still had a bit of that Zoom thing that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But we were there, in person. But Helena, who was the co-host from the Nordic EV Association, fantastic. She knows her stuff. She understands what to do. Very professional. Got a bit of an acting background. I only discovered that afterwards, because I thought she's very organised. She knows all the things with the microphones and the cues to go on stage and off stage. So it was great that I get to work with somebody. It gave me more confidence to just be a little bit more, maybe slightly more crazy.
Okay, but hey, shouldn't we, with all these things happening, innovation, changes, disruption, and technology development so quickly, don't we have to be a bit crazy and have a bit of the child also with us in creating all these opportunities?
It is a crazy time. It's a scary time in some ways for people who've always done something for a long time, and now they've got all this change. What does it mean? How does it affect me? People working, let's be fair, people working in car factories, making engines, making gearboxes, all this stuff. They hear all of this news going on all the time about electrification, which I'm glad they do, but helping them feel confident that we can help them maybe retrain, look at how the world can look and how they can be part of it. I think there's a whole story, a backstory to this shift to electrification about helping the people that have been in combustion engine manufacture and everything for some time. Bring them both together. We're not, it's a collective, combined effort here, and we have to help everybody with
exactly. To innovate, my mantra is also collaborate to innovate.
Yes.
We need to communicate. We need to work together, solve these big issues.
Yeah. And they're very big issues, Mika. If we look at, not just the shift from fossil fuel energy to renewable energy, but the shift to a different sort of mobility, the move where so many people live in cities now, the economic challenges around, how the world works, all this business now around supply chains that were just smashed to bits during pandemic, now being tried to be put back together again with all sorts of problems, But the thing is, humanity, I think, realised with the pandemic that we're all the same. We all had lockdown, we all had masks, we all had this. It's certainly not over yet. We've still got this business with, a lot of, I suppose people call it the global south. They're still well within the pandemic.
Oh, yes.
They haven't had access to, getting the vaccines. And so it's, on the one hand, it's been good to see how the world has come together, but it's still equally shown the big divisions within it. And I hope we can get some of those balanced up a bit, because, as that saying goes, but it's just too much a saying often, we are all in it together.
We are definitely. And it's been harsh in many ways, and on personal levels, etc. But again, how is it being in person at an event?
You realise what happens when you're with people. Strange little things, they call it happenstance or chance or whatever. where you're having a conversation, someone else is maybe listening, then they join in, and then something happens around knowledge that you didn't have or you only had a bit of, and then it gets added to, and you've got the complete picture. So yeah, I think it makes things happen faster. It makes things happen faster, and it makes things happen better. And yeah, even with LinkedIn, connecting on LinkedIn, that's good. You do know I like to do that now and then.
Sure.
That works, but there is a magic in meeting people, in the way in which getting together, is completely different.
It's the
much
best.
better.
Oh yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
But it's going to stay probably both too. But let's say talk about the Nordic EV Summit.
Oh yes.
Of course, Norway with what is it? We get new car sales more than 80%. I mean, zero emission vehicles, etc. So, what did you learn from these 2 days?
I learned a lot. I learned that there is a number of aspects of Norway that are very different. There are some people who can be quite cynical about the adoption rate in Norway and say, oh yes, but they're rich. Oh yes, but they're an oil company. Oh yes, but this and this. And there are some big differences, for example, around the number of people that can charge at home. It's a much bigger figure in Norway than many other countries. I think it's around 80%. Nonetheless, the one thing that did surprise me, Mika, is charging is still a problem.
Yeah.
Public charging in Norway is a bit like the challenge elsewhere. Too many apps, too many companies, no ability to roam, very often not the chance to just, tap and go, and reliability issues.
Exactly.
So it was like hearing some good news and not so good news. But many other things. We had Polestar on stage with NIO, talking to the teams running those businesses. I asked Polestar about. I would have asked both of them, but I asked Thomas Ingenlath, are you comfortable with someone in a Polestar pulling up a Tesla supercharger station as they open them up? I thought I'd put him on the spot. He's great. So his answer was fair and honest, but that's good, because that's an interesting piece of news. The whole thing of Tesla now trying in the Netherlands, opening up charging to other players.
Yeah.
Revealing all sorts of issues. I get quite a few of my friends on LinkedIn when I was saying, "Oh, isn't this great?" saying, "Well, hang on a second, Roger. Don't think you're thinking this through. Look at where all the different charge ports are. Some are at the front, some at the front left, some at the back right. It's how's this going to work? The length of the cable charger on a Tesla supercharger, it's not going to work with some of them.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's kind of like trial and error. Let's see what happens. I mean, Tesla aren't stupid. I mean, they're going to do what they can do.
Yeah, but it's not about just the superchargers. I mean, I've had because I drive EVs myself too.
Yeah.
And pulling up at the not the Tesla though, but pulling up at the charging station, and if you have the Chademo or CCS, and there's and you have several stations there. If it's blocked, the other parking lot, I can't charge. I have to wait until they're charged, because the cable is not long enough. So there's still, let's say, tweaks and fixes here to do.
I must say this though, and I will declare vested interest. So I don't know if you know, but I'm on the advisory board of a few companies, which is a very nice, role to have. What does that mean? It basically means you help, connect up people, you suggest ideas. It's not like your day job. And what it basically means is, you try and advise. That's why it's called advisory board. I'm on one of those is Momentum Dynamics, an American company who deliver high power automatic wireless charging. So what we have in Oslo is a couple of pads in the ground already. Others are going to be put in, where a pre-equipped Jaguar I-Pace can charge at 50 kilowatts automatically, wirelessly, really fast. I made a little video doing it myself, just to illustrate the experience.
I think it's on your LinkedIn page.
Right.
Let's
it's on
say.
LinkedIn,
Just check it out.
And I got a bit excited because, one way or the other, I haven't always had an EV, but, for 15 years, I've had to plug in an electric vehicle, whether it's been in the electric Modec back in the day, or, a Leaf that I've had, or the I-Pace like now. You've got to go and plug it in. It's not the end of the world. It's not like a massive challenge, especially at home. You just pull up on the drive and go and plug in. It's fine. But to be able to charge wirelessly it's like this moment of magic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's engineering. It isn't magic. It's basic physics and engineering. So, and then we had the guy who now left Jaguar and now works for Momentum present on stage at the Nordic EV Summit. What is this? How does it work? Why will it work? What happens next? And yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting, I think.
Okay, that's cool stuff. Yeah. So the ramp up is, of course, the scalability so important, because if it's nice to have a pilot or POC in that sense showing in Oslo, it works.
Yes.
And the user experience seems like, wow, it's fantastic. So how are they going to scale up this?
Yeah, this is the question I asked him actually when I did a quick Q&A at the end of his John Holland's presentation. At the moment, it's very much pointed at commercial vehicle fleets.
Okay.
High utilization vehicles like buses, yes, taxis, and maybe vans as well. Why? Well, because it means that they don't have to stop somewhere and charge, even for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It means, well, it kind of does, because you've still got to charge over time. You know, it's not that magic. You know, physics are physics. But what I mean is you haven't got to go to another location outside of your route. So in the instance of the taxis, you're charging on the taxi rank.
Oh.
You know, where you're waiting for customers is where you're charging. Buses will charge at the bus stop.
Sure.
They don't have to go
because
to a
they
depot
have
somewhere.
Standby time, waiting time.
Yes,
so,
they do.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing in regards to the charging sort of protocol is you're charging a little and often. So it's like grazing rather than scoffing, you know. Yeah. Do you know that word in English? Scoffing.
Okay,
eating really quickly.
Yeah.
So rather than fast charging all in one go, although it's, you know, pretty fast at 50 kilowatts. But that's the thing, just to go on a little bit more of the numbers. So you have a device underneath the vehicle which can be retrofitted. It is on the Jaguar, and it is on the BYD buses that have been around for a few years now in America.
And you see the BYDs also here in Oslo.
Yeah,
actually.
And I'm sure it won't be too long before they're equipped with it. So you have a single module which can charge up to 75 kilowatts. So it doesn't on the Jaguar because it's a 400 volt system rather than 800 volt system. It would at 75 if it was. But on a bus, you can then locate, because there's the space, what they call package space, underneath to put four separate, for example, 2 or 4 separate modules, and then you've got, you know, either 150 or 300 kilowatt charging.
Yeah.
So if you've got access to that at a bus stop, and on a bus route, you've got maybe 5 or 6 of those locations, and you've got even just 5 minutes stop at each time, because it's so quick and automatic, and then charging at that rate. Yeah, works a treat.
Wonderful. So, and there's so much. If we move out of Oslo, of course, look at Tesla. I mean, valuation above $1 trillion.
Yeah.
And you have the Rivian IPO without almost any revenue.
Is it 50 billion? Is
it? They are on now $9,500 billion valuation from the IPO. Woo! What's going on?
What's going on, I think, is just this extraordinary moment in history where we're seeing what we've seen before. So there's a guy called Henry Ford. There's a world where most people have horses and carts. You've probably seen the famous Tony Seba video presentation where he shows New York City in 1 year. A few years later, it's all horses, 1 car. A few years later, all cars, 1 horse. And this happened within this short period of time, within a decade. Spookily, I think we're now in that same period of change, that same decade that we saw back between 1910, I suppose it was, and 1920. We're seeing history rewrite itself. And what happened then? Well, monumental and epic change, this enormous shift to the horseless carriage, the car. That's now what we're seeing rewritten as the electric vehicle shift. Yeah. And maybe very quickly coming along with that, the shift to shared and autonomous vehicles, which could be an even bigger and even more profound disruption than just the electric vehicle. And so, to answer your question, it's taken me a while. I think the valuation, particularly of Tesla, and I think then Rivian are getting the tailwind of that, is the prospect of future growth, future development, the expansion of vehicles being used more often by many people, shared stuff and whatever. This is why you've got these enormous valuations. And of course, technically in some ways they're crazy. But you know what, Mika, I left the auto industry to go and work for Richard Branson's Virgin
Virgin,
Cars
mhm.
back in 2000, the dawn of the internet.
Yeah.
Sort of. It wasn't the dawn of the internet, but commercial internet,
Yeah, sure.
if you like. Websites and companies selling things over the web. Now, there was, companies like Amazon and Google who were like just coming up, and people thinking, why have they got these crazy valuations? This is ridiculous. Look at Amazon today. Look at
Exactly.
Google today.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple's a similar but slightly different story. So I don't think they are as crazy as they appear to be. But what do I know? I'm just some bloke in a shed in my garden on LinkedIn. I'm not a financer. Please don't take any of my comments or thoughts.
It's
as any
personal opinion,
advice.
just yeah, sure. But
but
there's been from these traditional OEMs, car manufacturers, and ignorance, arrogance, etc. Maybe that's, in a Star Wars context, the old empire versus these rebels. Is it just shifting now? In terms of power and
it is like Star Wars. So now we could do a scene where I like this analogy. So that Elon Musk is Darth Vader. And I can see a moment where there he is. We all know what Darth Vader is. And then there's Luke Skywalker, and so Darth Vader's Elon Musk, and then Luke Skywalker is let's say Herbert Diess. So there'll be a moment where Elon, as Darth Vader says, Herbert, I am your father, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. But it is like Star Wars. It is like this enormous, empire that's been created seemingly from nothing. The first automotive company in 70 years in America, that nearly failed right at the beginning. And ironically, it's Mercedes who saved them. It's Daimler who saved them. Yeah. Invested in the company, bought 10% equity, which of course they sold. Just imagine that, Mika. If they had that 10% equity today, it's like I'm trying to just get. Am I right in saying they would have $100 billion? That's right, isn't it? A bit more than that. Yeah. That's 10% of 1 trillion or so. It's mind-boggling numbers.
More than the valuation of Daimler. Yeah.
Yes. So it's like, this is all nuts. Yeah. But the Star Wars analogy. I'm going to work on that a bit more in my mind, because I can. That could have legs. I like that.
It could, and we have to figure out who's Jabba the Hutt.
Don't say a name.
No names. No names.
Trouble. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Probably thinking of the same person, but don't say it. Yeah.
Yeah, my lips are sealed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but with all this stuff going on, is it then? What should other entrepreneurs think? Is it? Let's say, is there room for more EV companies? Should I go and start an EV company?
Great question.
Or is it too late?
Great question. I don't think it's too late, but I think the lesson learned from watching some of certainly how Tesla are doing, Rivian not so much. NIO, we're at NIO House. Think of charging as well. Don't just think of your electric vehicle thing.
Exactly.
Think of what is the charging proposition going to be? Because I think the over-reliance of the German manufacturers now on Ionity maybe hasn't been what it could and should have been. Pace of change, reliability, simplicity, all of these things. They've got a lot right. They're doing a very good job with a lot of it, but not all of it. And I know this will upset some people. I'm not wishing to be rude. It is inferior to the Tesla supercharger network. Full stop. So I think when you're looking at the uptake of Tesla's sales, when you look at how well they're doing, I haven't done a poll. I'm not saying I know, but I suspect a lot of people might think, I'd rather have a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes, but actually, the Tesla's good. It's not. Maybe it's not quite like those others, but they don't mind, because the supercharger proposition, the confidence in being able to charge. They're not all in the best locations, but it has this brand reputation, this integrity around. We will help you with charging. That maybe the others haven't got yet, and they're paying a price for that now. Definitely they are. Yeah. So yeah.
So okay, so it leaves it a bit open. Yes, there's room for other innovators, and if you're thinking about look at the user experience.
Yeah. So I didn't really answer the question. So I think commercial vehicles, there's space for things, and smaller vehicles. I think I've always liked smart. I was talking to the smart guys in Stuttgart a while ago. I've always liked smaller city cars. There are companies like, there's a really cool company called Nobe cars. I know a bit about those because I've been with my friend Gisli. Do you know Gisli Gislason? Icelandic Viking EV warrior.
Oh, well, really? No, I don't know.
You
Okay.
must talk to him
right.
sometime. Do a show with Gisli.
Gisli.
So he and
Okay.
I have done a little bit together with Roman, the guy that does Nobe cars. So I think smaller electric vehicles, lighter, more focused on 1 or 2 or 3 occupants. We've got some lovely big electric cars, but I think we've got to remember where the majority of people live.
Exactly.
In cities, in big towns, spaces at a premium, etc., etc. So if you want to start an electric vehicle company, start a little one. The next big thing is going to be small.
Okay.
How about that?
It's good thing. Yeah, absolutely. But look, I mean, people have cars with ICE engines, and I do have a, let's say, young timer.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it? Should I retrofit that to electric, or should I e-fuels? What's happening?
I think a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think you kind of answered your question there. I think it's a bit of retrofit, and I think it is a bit of e-fuels. But we've got to remember, always on this journey, there's been a twin imperative: air quality and CO2.
Yeah.
So an electric vehicle is zero tailpipe. So that actually starts to deliver the air quality challenge.
Absolutely.
Let's not forget that. And yes, the grid around the world is a big variable in terms of how clean or otherwise it is. So when you're pumping that electricity into your EV, the cynics that say, oh, they're not really clean, at the tailpipe, yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of improving air quality, the more of that, the better. When you then look at the CO2 challenge, yes, we need to be producing clean electricity as fast as we can all over the world. And that's happening. So the zero tailpipes delivered immediately. The long tailpipe, if you like, the CO2 thing, takes a bit more time. Again, I'm trying to answer your question.
Yes,
Sorry,
sure.
I drift off. I think synthetic fuel has a great place.
Yeah.
Not for everything everywhere, because you're still, it's net zero. But if you're making, for example, petroleum synthetically, there's a guy who does this, a guy called Paddy Lowe, a company called Zero Petroleum. Paddy's developed that with a very smart academic, Dr. Neelay Shah from Imperial College in London, and they now have a proposition for clean petrol, you can call it. However, it still has to be burned in an internal combustion engine, so there is an output. But for example, aviation, that's a different proposition, because I don't know about you, I haven't seen an aeroplane flying down the street next to me recently. They're up in the sky, they're out of the way. Yeah. And if you've got as an improvement, net zero for certainly long haul flights, that's going to be a game changer. Hydrogen for other flights, by the way. There's another company doing that, but I'm not going to go off on a tangent. Please keep stopping me if I don't answer your questions and wander off.
It's great to listen to you.
I sometimes feel I might be turning into a village idiot, and then I'm thinking, what did he ask me? What am I talking about? I don't even know.
Why are we here? No.
Yeah, I've got no idea on that one.
No. Yeah, let's skip that one for today.
Yeah, do that later.
Not today.
Yeah.
But of course, we talk about tailpipes and emissions in that sense. But of course, it's not just about the vehicle itself or how the electricity is produced. But there's all the components that goes into this. The metal sheets. I mean, we have to go carbon neutral with steel fabrication. Where is the plastics coming from? Can we recycle that? So it's a big shift in the whole value chain and how we manufacture, produce goods, right?
Mika, this is so important. I'm really glad you brought this up. Again, at the Nordic EV Summit, we had several panels and several presentations on this theme and flavor, particularly when you go upstream in terms of the battery. The mining and the mineral processing, where does that sit in the life cycle analysis? The one thing I'm very pleased to see Polestar doing a lot more is putting this right up front. I think I recall from Thomas Ingernath's presentation, he said, right, we are not zero emission, we're zero tailpipe emission, but the manufacture of, for example, Polestar 2 I probably got this wrong, so forgive me, but he said it's 15 tons of CO2 to make that car.
I can check those numbers. Probably
Yeah, that'd
it's
be
on
good.
the
Put it
Polestars.
up on the screen if
Yeah,
you got it wrong.
I'll
'Cause
do
I don't
that.
want to get it wrong, but I
Yep.
think that's what he said. It was 15 or 17. And what they're now is doing is being completely upfront and saying, this is where we are and this is where we want to be. So this is how we're going to try and get there. And I think that it's essential that we have that integrity around, well, it isn't clean, so how do we make it clean? To answer your question about getting to the point where all of these things are analysed much more. Where does it come from? How far does it travel? What is its carbon footprint? How clean can we make it? Because if we don't focus our attention on those things, there's aspects of hypocrisy in lecturing the internal combustion engine arena and saying, you're all bad guys, you're doing all this stuff. And then over here with EVs, we're not doing the very best we can to make all that stuff right. So yeah, right the way through the whole, bill of materials for an electric vehicle needs to be total forensic analysis of the life cycle component in this. So right from the beginning, the mining of minerals, make that better, and then the reuse and recycling, the other end, that's really important too. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there.
It is, and again, it's about collaboration. We have to look at, let's say, established value chain, established companies who are shifting to kind of be part of this too.
Yes, and economics, fundamentally to all of this, the thread that has to run through it all is who's going to make some money? People are not going to do this for fun.
No.
They're going to do it because it's a commercial enterprise.
Absolutely.
The other thing in that is we need governments to produce policies that create, the good and typical level playing fields, that encourage and perhaps incentivize early stage sort of development. And when people say, oh, just let the market, deliver it. I heard a wonderful presentation, again, during the summit we've just had, where it said, look at a city like Rome. Look at how you don't see really tall buildings above the skyline of this beautiful ancient city. Look at cities now around Europe especially, but many other places where you just see bicycles and pedestrians. This isn't the market working and delivering that. This is policy. Yeah. So policy isn't dry and dull and boring and doesn't work and is unrealistic. You need a balance between policy and market forces to make what we want to happen.
Yeah. So and also these days, so many events going on and happening. So Glasgow COP26, it was a transportation theme.
Yes.
2040 pledge. I mean, some joined, not everyone. Like Toyota is always a bit hesitant.
Yeah, I don't know the details of who signed up to all of that. All I do know, because at the end of the Nordic EV Summit, Monica was on stage, and Monica Araya was on stage from Glasgow talking to Christina Boo about particularly the transport day that they just had. And I'm pleased to say, relieved to hear that Monica said she was positive about the outcomes in it, the things that people were signing up to. And not, as you say, not everybody signed up to it. There are a few curious people that didn't. And none of us should have favourites, especially you and I, because we're kind of like storytellers, commentators, whatever.
Sure.
But
it's not about that. It's just to kind of, in a general term and sense, understand what's going on. But
the big challenge in this is, and the bit that kind of is there at COP, but kind of isn't there often at events and exhibitions, is the undercurrent of geopolitics.
Of course.
The power base that an energy of a certain type, like gas, for example, gives a country like Russia, for instance. These things aren't just going to be changed overnight and given up lightly, simply, for the pursuit of tackling climate change. Fundamental as that is, it sits within, power bases, geopolitical power bases of how the world works. So uncoupling that, changing that, kind of destabilizing that's the really big job. That's like the real nettle that we've got to grasp. But at the same time, doing all these other things is fantastic, because I definitely felt, I did at the Green Tech Festival in London with Nico Rosberg and others a few days before, the same feeling. Banking, engineering, politics, coming together much more than ever before. There is a real sense of urgency, I think almost tapping into a sense of fear from the public that climate change now is right in our faces.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and we know the young Swedish girl who's been
Greta.
giving everybody this sense, and for some people now, even now, sadly, starting to maybe dismiss her or ignore her. Oh, she's just, you know, over the top, crazy, whatever. I don't think so.
No.
I think at the core of what she's been saying right from that moment when she was in Poland at the summit there and gave everyone this dramatic wake-up call. We ignore people like that. We're going to do so at our peril, at our absolute peril.
Yeah.
So I personally, COP things, I didn't go to it. I was invited to a few things. I kind of didn't want to go. So what can I do? I can't make a difference. I'll probably make more of a difference just posting a few things on LinkedIn and listening to a few people, trying to be a storyteller, bring a few things together. I can make more of a contribution that way than being up in Glasgow. You know, yeah, and I was much happier to be, in London last week and then here in Oslo.
Yeah.
Disappointed with myself that I didn't drive here in an EV, which I said I was going to do. But when I was looking at the fluidity of the pandemic challenge and what you can and can't do in different countries, I suppose if I'm honest, I kind of bottled it, and then I didn't come, and I flew here, and I feel quite disappointed in myself that I did that. But you know, we're having to now, you know, we do have to think a bit more about this now. We can't just fly everywhere until we've got the electric planes. That's the thing. Yeah. Synthetic fuel, hydrogen aircraft. That's why I love these people.
We need it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, so of course there's still with efficiencies and things to improve in that sense. Yeah, absolutely. But so London, Oslo, what's next for you, Roger?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think now. Go home and sleep on my own bed and take the dogs out for a walk. That's definitely next.
Oh yeah.
You know, and my wife is a fantastic cook, so because when I come away, I often don't eat very much, which is a good thing because I could lose a bit of weight. But when you get sort of excited, you're with people, whatever, you just sort of pick and snack a little bit. You don't tend to go and have a big meal somewhere. And also there isn't time, which is crazy. That's not COVID, by the way.
No. Sure.
So what's next? Well, coming up to Christmas, I want to just reflect on what I've been doing this year. Think about what I'd like to do next year. Going to record a podcast with Nico Rosberg, which I'm quite excited about because he's a very intelligent, smart young man. I met him for the first time last week.
I love what he's doing. I mean,
so do I. It's very easy to dismiss things like that and say, oh, look, he's a kind of rich guy. He's going to go and do this. But do you know what? He could go and do all sorts of other things that didn't involve getting in front of hard, questions, encouraging people to develop. He's using his status as a platform for change and to accelerate change.
And that's great.
He's got kids. He doesn't want to leave a legacy for them that's appalling. So no, I enjoyed being his company. I like what he and his team, because of course it's not just him. It's this fantastic team. The Green Tech Festival was great. And the people that won awards on the Thursday night, these were really cool things that were up for the awards, and then the winners. Maybe you can put them up on your screen who won it.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's definitely worth looking at. So, and then what's next for me next year? Well, we've got the EVS Summit in the summer, here again in Oslo.
Yes.
That EVS 35, that will definitely be something for people's diaries, because this will be the whole global EV industry coming together. A lot about academic work, academic papers. There's a call for papers, but it will be companies talking about their technology. It will be a way in which people can establish, like I've been mentioning, partnerships, relationships, joint ventures to accelerate change. Here in kind of the EV capital of the world. That irritates some people when I say that, I know, but it is. It kind of is. But what we'd like is for every country, every city to be an EV capital of the world, not just this one.
That's a nice target. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah. Good.
It should be that way. So relax a bit over Christmas, and we have a fantastic new year to look forward to with the summits, etc.
Yeah.
Let's hope for that. And no new lockdown or things like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But it's great meeting you here in NIO House. This is the first NIO House you've been in?
It's the first one, and
so we've got this swanky area around here. I'm sure maybe you'll show people, give them a little tour around. But I really love it. And when I asked Thomas Ingenlath and Marius about how can they spend all this money, on these beautiful facilities right in the city centre, it's like they don't advertise. This is their marketing budget. In terms of how does a business work, you want to sell cars, make money, all those other things, but having a facility where people can hang out, customers and prospective customers, their families and their friends, there's the kids play area, meeting rooms, all this stuff. It's a bit like how I think Elon, we might have said this already, but Elon, I think, realised that the best marketing budget for Tesla was always going to be the supercharger network. And I think these new EV players think the best marketing budget for them is that, what's that funny word they use? Experiential. It's a funny word, that, but it means, letting people touch and feel the brand, not just drive the product. So spend the money on that, rather than wonderful adverts as they may be, because I don't want to really irritate filmmaking people and people that do great adverts.
Great stuff too.
Yeah, they do, but they're always like movies. They cost a lot of money, but they don't. You could argue they don't really do anything for the customer. Not really. They look sexy, but
Yeah, and I think it's like you say, this the experience with it, or let's say maybe also Elon Musk's vision here is use more the users, the word of mouth, in terms of all the broad advertising.
The closer you're connected to the customer, the more likely you are to A, find them, B, keep them. That's it.
Lovely. Vielen Dank.
Dankeschön, meine Damen und Herren. Dankeschön for watching us. It
was great, Lovely being with you. Thank you.
Bump. And thank you for watching. I'm just thrilled to be able to do this with people like Nico, who's got this fantastic way of communicating, great audience. I know you've done lots and lots of podcasts and hopefully more and more videos now. You can get out and about, in person. But hope I didn't ramble on too much. I do start to get a bit like that. But please forgive me. Thank you.
On that bombshell, we'll say good night.